Hi guys, what's up? Welcome back to this channel. My name is Angela, and as I promised last time, I was going to take you through a step-by-step process of applying for the home support worker or child caregiver pilot. So coming right up. And of course, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please consider doing so and join the club. So I already spoke about this pilot before, but it's designed for foreign nationals with work experience in NOC code 4411 and 4412, and that is the child caregiver pilot and the home support worker pilot. So if you're considering applying for this pilot, then you must have work experience in these NOC codes. And if you're not familiar with the NOC codes or national occupational classifications, I'm going to link the video somewhere on this particular video so that you can go back and check on how to identify your own NOC code to see whether you qualify. So it's very important to note that for you to qualify for this pilot, you must have provided in-home care to either children under the age of 18, and that is if you want to be a nanny or a child caregiver, and in-home care to maybe people with mental disability or elderly people for the home support worker pilot. So I've seen so many people saying that they have experience as ECD teachers or primary school teachers, or even experience taking care of their own children, but that doesn't count as work experience, because taking care of your own children is not actually work. It's just something that you have to do. It's your responsibility. So you must have worked as a nanny in somebody's home, or maybe you are taking care of somebody's children in your own home, or you are taking care of somebody with disability or an old person in their own home. So this is something that is very important to note, so that you don't come back to my Instagram asking me, okay, I'm a primary school teacher, or I have this experience and that. If that doesn't apply here, please then just unfortunately know that it is not regarded as work experience. It is not my saying, it is something that you can confirm from the IRCC website that I will link below this video. And just a recap about the features of this pilot program is that this is a 5-year pilot that started somewhere in 2018 or something. So it still has some time to go, and it actually allows qualified workers or qualified foreign workers to immigrate to Canada and also become permanent residents. And by this, they can immigrate along with their family members. And that means that while applying, you as a candidate will have to submit an application for a work permit or a temporary work permit, and alongside that application you will also be applying for your permanent residency. So if you as a candidate meet the requirements, then you will be issued with a temporary work permit. And it is important to note that the temporary work permit is occupation restricted, which means you can only work under the same NOC code as what you're applying for, but you can change employers. It's only occupation restricted but not employer restricted, which means you can move from one house to another but doing the same types of duties under the same NOC code. Once you as a candidate has worked for 24 months under the same type of job and has gained enough work experience, then you can send proof of your work experience to the Canadian Immigration, who will now reach a final decision on your permanent residency application. And now step number 1 is that you have to receive an offer of employment from a qualified Canadian employer. And by qualified, it means that the employer has to show proof that they actually need a person to take care of children under the age of 18 that they have around their home, or maybe they have elderly people, or they have a person living with disability in their home. They also have to prove to the immigration officials that they can afford to pay the foreign worker the required wage, and that should be either the minimum wage or above the minimum wage of that particular province. And the offer of employment is not going to be just a letter that has been drafted by the employer, but it's actually an official document that has to be downloaded from the IRCC website. And both you and the employer will have to fill this document, because there are blank spaces left for you to put maybe your name, your local details. Let us just look at this offer of employment so that you understand what you're supposed to receive, and if you receive anything different from this one, then you cannot use it to apply for your temporary work permit or even your permanent residence. For the offer of employment for home child care provider pilot and the home support worker pilot, this is how your offer letter is supposed to look like. And if you're going to receive anything other than this, then that is not accepted. And remember that this one can be obtained from the IRCC website. The form itself is called Form IMM 5983, Offer of Employment. So as you can see that here, the hiring section, where your employer will need to tick or to check the box whether you are being hired for a home care provider or the home support worker pilot as necessary. So your employer will have to fill in their information, their surname, their given names, all this other information is right there. They just need to write it down. And then you as the employee will also need to fill in section 3. You will need to provide your names, passport number, country of birth, citizenship, your mailing address, and in every other thing. And if you are being accompanied by your family members to Canada, then you will also need to indicate you need to indicate the number, like how many adults and how many children under the age of 18. You'll need to provide all that information. Just remember to read the form clearly, step by step, and fill all the information that is required. And then, of course, this one will be filled by the employer, whether you will be working or you'll be performing the work from their residence or not. All this information needs to be provided to enable the IRCC or the immigration agents to reach a decision on your application. So you can go through that form and check all that information. I will put a link on the description down below so that you can go through it at your own time, but otherwise that is what is expected of you. And remember to sign. Do not forget to check all the boxes and also to put in your signature and the date. That is very important, because if the document is missing a signature or some pertinent information, then it will be considered as invalid. And step number 2 is that you need to obtain your IELTS. And so many people keep asking me, what is IELTS? IELTS is actually an abbreviation for International English Language Testing Systems, and this means that you need to show proof of your language abilities. You can show proof of your language abilities in either French or English, depending on whatever language you are comfortable with. And that means that you have to take the test and score at least band 5, and that means you have to score at least a 4 in reading, and then 5 in listening, speaking, and writing. And just before we move from there, I know there's so many people who are confused about IELTS, and others are going ahead to book the exam without doing enough preparation or reading about it. They're just going to book the exam because they want to have the papers. But please, as I already informed you in my previous videos, you need to take serious interest in this. You need to practice a lot. You need to be familiar with the exam structure, and you really need guidance if you can. And by the way, I have formed a WhatsApp group for IELTS test takers, where you can get access to daily practice materials and also reading resources from the British Council, actually giving you instructions or maybe video tutorials on how to go about the exam. So if you happen to be interested in joining or in getting added to this WhatsApp group, please notify me via email, and my email is on the description down below. Please do not misuse the email by asking maybe irrelevant questions. If you want to just book like a slot for you to be added to the WhatsApp group, so that you have group discussions where we discuss various questions every day, or we tackle different aspects, we look at samples of writing materials, we practice speaking, or even where you want to get an assessment or a review on your writing or on your speaking or whatever that exam entails, then of course definitely make use of that email address that I will put in the description down below. So let's move on. The other requirement for this pilot is that you need to have at least a minimum of 1 year post-secondary education, which means if you only stopped at high school and never went to college to obtain either a certificate or a diploma of at least 1 year, then it means that at this point you do not qualify to apply for this pilot program. So you need to check on that. And so many people ask me that, okay, then what is my other option? What do I need to do? And I think the answer is very clear. You need to take some time and go back to school. and obtain either a college diploma or certificate. If you can obtain the training or the diploma as a caregiver or as a home support worker, then it will also work to your advantage, because obtaining the necessary training as a home caregiver or as a nanny, even if you don't have work experience in these fields, can also serve as experience. And remember that if you are going to obtain training or work experience as a nanny, then that needs to be for at least a program of 6 months. But remember that you still need to have at least 1 year post-secondary education or 1 year college education, or maybe even 1 year in a polytechnic, where you can provide proof by submitting an ECA report that you will obtain from WES or any other body that is responsible for providing educational credentials. I already did a full video about how to go about obtaining the report from WES, and if you haven't seen that, then I will also link that video somewhere above here and also on the description down below, so that you can go ahead and check on that. So once you have all the requirements, you have your job offer, you have your IELTS, and you have your ECA report, then it is time to now provide or submit your application for the permanent residency and also the temporary work permit. So once you have submitted your application, the processing time will take like 45 days roughly. This is average, and it's a case by case basis. It may take maybe a shorter time or a longer time depending on the kinds of documents that you have provided or the checks that they need to look into before you are given a go ahead. And remember that during this same period you can apply for a work permit for your spouse, and that will be an open work permit that is non-occupation restricted, and also study permits for your children if you're going to be traveling with them. So once you have reached this step, then congratulations, you can now travel to Canada and begin working under these pilot programs. And after working for 24 months, or at least within 36 months, you need to have worked for 24 months, then you can go ahead and submit your application for permanent residency or give a proof of your work experience to the immigrations Canada, and then they will reach a decision on your PR. And once you become a permanent resident, then now it's a game changer for you, and you can enjoy the same privileges like other Canadian permanent residents. You can work on any occupation, your children can go to school and enjoy the privilege of free education and all that stuff. So yeah, that is the whole entire application process. And just remember, points to take home: please do not struggle to start even taking your IELTS or applying for jobs if you do not meet the eligibility criteria, and that is having the necessary work experience and having the right level of education, or having the right or the required level of English proficiency. Otherwise it will just be a waste of your time. You cannot change this, and it is not me who decided. This is not even my thing. I'm just sharing information. You know, some people come to me and ask like, okay, please help me, please. I'm just here to share information. I'm not an immigration agent, so I cannot make a decision on your application. It's totally merit based. If you qualify, you qualify. If you do not qualify, you do not qualify. When it comes to age, when you're talking about age, if you're going to find an employer that is okay hiring you at maybe 45 years of age or 57 years of age, then that is up to you and the employer. And some might even ask, what if my relative wants to ask to hire me? Your relative, if your relative wants to hire you, they can go ahead and do that, as long as they meet the requirements to hire a foreign worker, and you as a foreign worker meets the requirement to work in that particular profession. So I hope that is clear, and if you enjoyed this video, please remember to give it a very big thumbs up, and also put your comments down below. Share this video with somebody who might benefit